Today on TriFlix, we learn a few things. Alright guys, so like I said last episode, we were trying to mix things up a bit. I've been tracking analytics and things just aren't working out. So for now on, every Friday, we're going to do some sort of short, condensed episode that's entertaining. So people that just want to watch the video for entertainment reasons don't feel like they're wasting their time. But also, each Friday episode, we're going to include some sort of technique, some software, or some new creative thing that I found out that I want to share with you guys. And then on Tuesdays, which is today, I will be breaking down what we did on the last Friday episode. So it gives you guys a little bit of time to figure it out on your own. And also, if anybody that was wanting to learn how to do it, including yourself, they can check us out on Tuesday whenever I break it down. So for today, we're going to be breaking down this effect from last Friday. Nothing? Alright, so to begin, we are going to start by making the LED screen orange on the watch. Currently is black and you won't be able to see anything. And this will help just blend all of the components together. So use the rectangle generator, make a rectangle shape, set the color to orange. We're going to go to the start of the clip and set a keyframe. Turn the opacity or the fill all the way down. Depends on what type of program you're using. In this case, I'm using Apple's Motion 5 for all of these effects. But feel free to use whatever type of software of your choice. The concept's pretty much the same. Once you have the square lined up, we're going to go ahead and import a orange lens flare you can find online. We'll set the blend type to either add or screen. It makes very little difference in the image. And you can see the difference between the one on the left that's already on the screen and the one that I'm adding is the size. So we're going to go ahead and increase the size and have it grow over a period of time. So we'll go to the end of the track and set the keyframe at its largest point, and then go to the start and turn that size all the way down so it looks like it grows as the light increases. Now we will set the mask tool because it's a little big, but it depends on what type of subject you have, and obviously light doesn't travel through objects, so for this reason I'm going to go ahead and take out some on the left and the right, and plus it'll help blend it all together with the shot a little bit more. If your actor is in the way, light's not going to travel through it, so just use that mask tool accordingly for your specific shot. Here you can see in the center, the one on the left is a little bit brighter, so we're going to go ahead and go to the filters effect, type in glow, and just apply that on top of the layer, and that'll give it a little bit more of a shine, make it look more of a realistic growing light. Also, whenever you were adding that mask tool to light layers, you want to make sure to feather those up a lot. We'll be using the feathering settings in the mask quite frequently. And now we're going to go ahead and make the lights. So in order to make the laser lights, we are going to make a circle, take out the fill of the circle, and just play with the outline of it. This is of course stylistic, so you'll adjust it however best suits your shot. In this case, I'm going to make a thicker ring, and we're just going to go ahead and decrease the radius a little bit. And then I added the glow effect to it. But don't forget to try testing different blend modes for this. In this case, I believe I leave mine on normal, but you can set yours to screen or several other options. And this will help it blend with your scene much better. I went ahead and added the inner glow as well as the regular glow, and we're just going to set that to a blue and put that on a real low setting, but it'll give it a nice textured effect so it doesn't look like it's just a circle. We'll press L on our keyboard if you're using Apple Motion, and that will replicate it, but if you're using a different program, you might need to search how to replicate, and basically that'll put it in a generator. Can either use line or wave. In this case, I'm using wave because it's physics. You're shooting a laser, it's not going to shoot in a perfectly straight line. There's things that would interfere with it, like air resistance and other such things, but of course it's fake. You know, it's a fake effect, you can do whatever you want. I just want it to look a little realistic. And we're going to set that color to blue. We're going to move our start and end points so that at the start of the scene, while it's still glowing and building up energy, it will start all at the beginning, right in the middle of the watch, and we'll go to the end of the scene and set the end point off the screen. And by doing this, as the scene plays out, it will appear that the laser's growing. Since we're going backwards, the laser's retreating back into the light source. And if your lines are really close together, all your circles are close together, and it looks like one solid line, what you can do is take your endpoint and extend it out even farther. Now we are going to take a lens flare that's built into Motion, but of course you can find any lens flare online and throw it up on top. In addition to doing this, of course you can always take the actual laser that we made with all the circles and stick it underneath, but I find that adding a second lens flare just blends it together much better. Here we're adding a mask around my face, and the reason for this is whenever the laser comes up, you don't want it shooting through your person's head. It's not very realistic. And if I had a green screen, this would be great, but I didn't, so we're just going to use a mask tool, draw around my face, and play with some feathering. Now that we know what it looks like, we'll go ahead and move it over on the right side with the blue laser. And I'm only doing 2 different shots so we can see a side by side. Now we are typing in Motion, and you can analyze motion, and what you're going to do is drop that on your footage, which mine already is. Right over the square you can see what's in the middle of your footage, and that is corresponding to the dot that got placed on your screen. You can actually put the dot on top of the watch and it would attract that motion, and by doing that you would go back in and place the match move on your footage of the lights, such as the rectangle, the lens flares, and the laser shooting out. And you're going to match that movement, so as your wrist and watch is moving, the light source will move with it, and it doesn't look like the laser's stuck in place. Now, because our light source is bright enough to create a lens flare, it's most likely it's going to create some light in the scene. And in order to blend the scene together even better, we are going to make a mask tool around everything in the scene that the light would be touching as the light grows. In this case, it'll be the side in front of my character, as well as the inner parts of my body, like the hand and the inside of my arm, and a little bit of the box right in front. Once you make your shape, you can go ahead and turn down the opacity and set the color. And of course, you want to turn up that feathering like I mentioned earlier. Every time you have a light source, you just want to crank up that feathering. And a good opacity setting for light is about 4%, but again, that'll depend on your scene. This is just reference material for you. And at the end of the scene, you're going to have it at the brightest, and at the start of the scene, as the light grows, you're going to have it at the lowest setting. See, everything just blends together. And now we're ready to move on to the second part of the scene, where we go from a close-up shot to a wide shot. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put in another one of those lens flares, set it to either add or screen, and you can see that the one that's already on the shot is larger and rotated, so we're just going to change the rotation and scale a little bit. And you can see as my wrist moves throughout the scene, the lens flare is moving as well, and that's just for a little bit of continuity. If the source of light's rotating, chances are your lens flare is going to as well. And we're just going to do that by keyframing, go to the end and match it to the wrist movement, and go to the start and match it to the wrist rotation, and it should come out pretty smooth. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go to the start of the clip and throw on some opacity and have it brighten up as the scene plays out. Because the laser was already shooting out, we need to have the lens flare as bright and large as the one was before. Now that you got your lens flare set up, you can go ahead and throw another mask tool, and everything that the light was touching in the previous scene, the light should be touching now. And we will change the color, change the opacity, and go ahead and change the time so that the opacity scales out over the duration of the light. Now we can use a circle tool and just create an oval of where the light would be traveling, because that would be lighting up pretty bright around your laser. Add your laser in that we just created. You can use that same technique of the starting and end points. Now, because our last scene had the laser already halfway shot up, we need to start the laser halfway shot out already with the trajectory towards the ceiling, and that oval light is going to match it as well. We're going to go ahead and at the base of the watch we'll add another lens flare, the more circular, smaller one, over top of the watch, and that'll just blend it together a little bit better. And also around the laser, we already created one oval around the light that was white, so we're going to go ahead and create an orange one, a little bit larger, and lay that underneath of the laser and white light, feather that out. And then we'll create an even larger one and do more of a yellowish orange color and set the opacity fairly low. That will be as if the light source is lighting up that back wall. You can analyze the motion on the wristwatch and apply the match move to the rest of that group you just created with all of your lights. So as the wrist moves, the base part of the light will move itself. And of course, you still want to adjust those endpoints for your laser. Now that we know where the end of the laser is going to hit the ceiling, we can go ahead and add some sort of smoke or some explosions. In this case, I'm using many different layers. Layers are very important when creating good solid VFX. Here you can see where the light source is going to be hitting the ceiling. We have another oval that we set to a low opacity light, and that is going to be the light from the explosion. We'll go ahead and toggle that on and off. So again, there are 6 components you see up there. We have the laser coming out, the white light, the red light, and the faint orange light up against the wall, as well as 2 lens flares. And it blends together very well, and I was pretty impressed by this effect, and I hope it's beneficial to you, but we're going to go ahead and play this out a little bit more. So we got that ring going up, and we're going to go ahead and add some dust particles. And you're probably wondering where I am getting these explosions and particles. Most programs and software come with them. Final Cut came with a couple, but a couple additional ones that I got are from Video Copilot's Action Essentials, which I highly suggest if you plan on doing a lot of action scenes to purchase. I believe it was $99 whenever I bought it, which is a little high. I know our channel is dedicated for the $20 budgeters, but on average, if you do use it a lot, it is a great investment. But if you can't afford it, check out online. There's always some free digital assets. And we will be doing an episode on digital assets in the near future, but again, working on October projects, keeping me really busy. So we'll get there when we get there. But going back to the assets we have in the shot, we have some dirt and wood particles falling out. And because my shot is so wide and the particles do need to be small, if the particle were to come all the way down to the end of its shot, it would fall past the line of the footage. Therefore, it would have a sharp edge. So, to explain that in layman's terms, the wood would be falling down but would reach the end of the recorded footage, which is smaller than the size of our footage we shot, and our wood would be disappearing in thin air, which doesn't look quite right. So the way to get around that is you would add a mask around it, an oval mask, turn up the feathering a little bit, and as time progresses, as it reaches the end of it, you would turn the opacity down and keyframe that, so it would be tracked, of course. And now we can add the hole in the roof that we created with our laser explosion. I'm going to go ahead and find a hole in the wall online. You can go ahead and save that, import it into your shot, and play with the different blend modes. Whenever you shoot a hole in something, it depends on what type of layer you're laying it down on and what color the layer is. In this case, I had to go through about every different blend mode to find a good one and play with some of the color changes. And it honestly wouldn't be beneficial for me to explain that process to you because this is only one in a million different ways of doing it. I can give you the basic gist of it, but the specific settings just wouldn't be that beneficial to you. And for the sake of time, we will not talk about it. But of course, like I said, the best way to make VFX look realistic is layering it in the shot. The more layers you have, typically, the better it'll look. But again, you want a modest amount. You don't want to throw in 100 different VFX because you think they look cool. Make it look realistic. Always research some shots from some of your favorite Hollywood films and see if you can find a way to match it as closely as possible. And then at the end, or throughout the process, you can throw in some of your own stylistic approaches to it. You can see me playing around with some different smoke layers. That smoke is coming from what looks to be above the ceiling, essentially out of the shot, above the hole, I guess. So to fix that, we're just going to go ahead and turn on a mask and set it to an oval shape again so that the base of the smoke would appear as if though it were coming out of the hole and not from above it out of the shot. And you just want all those sources to come from the same point and layer them up nice and well. Don't forget to use your blend modes and play around with those because smoke, it can be tricky. Typically screen and add mode usually work the best, but it depends on your scenery, like I said before. One tricky thing about using stock footage of smoke that you placed in your shot is the way smoke works. Smoke kind of dissipates over time, and the stock footage you receive will most likely not dissipate over time. It'll just fill the shot for a very long duration. And you got to be aware of that when putting it in your shot. It might work the way it is, but for me in this case, as the smoke stays in the shot, I need to turn the opacity down over a period of time by using some more keyframes. So you just want to go to the start of your footage, have the opacity high. As the duration of the footage goes on, you can actually turn down that opacity again like we've been doing with the light sources.
Nothing? Sponsor time!
I want to personally thank Carr Design for all the sick logos they provided us with, as well as design help. Carr Design, best design on this side of the Mississippi. Now I know there's a lot of different effects and techniques used throughout this video, and we're only going to be looking at one, and the reason for that is, like I said, we have a big project we're working on this October. I want to get it done in time, so hopefully doing it this way, I can spread it out over a period of time, get stuff done in advance, and then post it when it's ready. So I hope you found this episode both helpful and concise to the point. If you enjoyed it, let me know by liking the video down below. If you want to see more like it, let me know by subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave that in the comment section below, or you can send it to Twitter over here. And as always, guys, don't stop working hard.